The real difference between obviously a Medicare Supplement and a Medicare Advantage plan, and there's no perfect option for everybody. They might be a great option. One person might be a great fit for both of them. Just which one do they just like the sound of more? The difference is with a Medicare Advantage plan, you pay for what you use.
Right.
Downside to that is that you might use a lot.
Yeah.
And you might pay a lot. Positive. You might be very healthy and you might not go to the doctor at all. And you just saved yourself a ton of money.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Medicare Sales Playbook. I am your host, Dallas Keithley. We are here to help you expand your Medicare business one play at a time. And we are going to throw something in special that we haven't done before. You guys made some comments, and I love that. I love that you guys are commenting on the videos. You said we need more training. We need more hands-on, something that we can take home and use throughout our process. And so that's what we're going to start doing. So you're going to see these trainings mixed in. When we thought about doing trainings, we said, you know what? We need a co-host for these things. And the first person that came to mind was not available, but the second person was Matt Smith. Matt, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks. And if it's anything to tell you, my first appointment today didn't work out. So I'm here as well.
You know what? We're just both of us
stars were aligned.
Working our second choices. I love that. Well, tell us about yourself. How long you been in the business? That kind of stuff.
Sure. So I've been in the Medicare business for 10 years, going right on 10 years. I started out working for a carrier, spent about 9 years working for a carrier, selling, working in an administrative role for them. It's funny, when I got into Medicare, and I like to tell people the story, when I got into Medicare, I came from working at the hospital, and I knew so little about Medicare. So when we talk about training, starting from the absolute ground floor, I knew so little about Medicare that my boss had to tell my former coworkers what I was going to do because I had no clue.
And you're listening going, oh yeah, that's what I do.
Oh yeah, because they're like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't really know.
Yeah.
So I've been, in this industry for 10 years. I've been, a Medicare director for about a year now. And, daily I, work, lead, train, serve agents across the country. From everything from how do they understand Medicare to how do they enroll people into Medicare to how do they explain people into Medicare and how do they simply grow their books of business and serve their communities.
Yeah. And guys, all kidding aside, Matt has a great knowledge on Medicare and knows the ins and outs and knows how to make it relatable, which is what we want to do with these trainings.
Sure.
Right. So today, what we want to talk about, so we were sitting there thinking, how do we start these trainings? What do people want to know? And we asked some people, and I thought, you know what? Why don't we start back at the very beginning and explain what is Medicare? And most agents probably, I hope, know that.
I hope.
But there's a difference between knowing what Medicare is and knowing how to present it to your client.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk today about how to present Medicare to your client in a way that they understand. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, I love our friend Rob Sevilla. You know Rob, and We're going to have Rob on the podcast very soon. Rob always says he starts every appointment with, sir, are you the type of person that wants to know the ins and outs and the details and what's on page 52 of the Medicare guidebook, or are you the person that wants the 10,000-foot view?
Sure.
And, I think it's important. I want to get your thoughts on it, but I think it's important to make sure you know your client first.
Absolutely.
And know exactly how they're supposed to, how they like to learn.
Absolutely. And I think that's and I love that Rob starts his presentations off like that. Just out of curiosity, what are you? Do you want to know the ins and outs, or are you a 10,000-foot view?
I don't care how to spell Medicare, right? Like, tell me where I can go,
sure,
how much it's going to cost me.
See, I'm the exact opposite. Like, I don't want
you for a client.
You don't. I want to know all the details so that I can make, I want to be, paralysis by analysis. Uh-huh. I want to be paralyzed in my analysis because I want all the details. So I love that he does that because, knowing your client, it gives you, a very quick understanding of how do I explain this? Is this going to be a 20-minute meeting or is this going to be an hour and 20-minute meeting?
Yeah. Is this an engineer or is this a farmer?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nothing against either one. We don't like engineers. Oh, I'm kidding. But no, so this will be good. You and I will be very different.
Yes.
And Guys, if you don't already know, Matt, stand up for me for a second. Speaking of different, yeah, he don't know if he can. I hope his head's out of the shot. It's out of the shot. Our Adam, our producer, saying. So, guys, don't make fun of him for that. He's very conscientious about his height and the fact that he has a full head of hair. So easy on the comments.
It's embarrassing at times.
It really is. I feel bad for you. But no, so we couldn't be more polar opposite. So this will be good. So let's do this. Let's start out by talking about what is Medicare. A lot of agents skip this and they just go into you can have a supplement or you can have an Advantage plan. Well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right. So let's go into, if I were explaining to a client on I use a legal pad. We've got some forms that we use stuff, but I love to still use a legal pad. This is how I would present it. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about Medicare Part A. Medicare is split up into two divisions. Medicare Part A, which covers the hospital room. And at that point, I would look here and explain to the client that the Medicare Part A is basically like an expensive hotel room, right? You don't get Wi-Fi, you don't get meals, anything like that. 100% disgusting hospital jello. We've had a conversation about this.
Yeah, I'll disagree on that part, but yes, I agree with you on what you're saying about it.
Matt he loves jello so much he gets excited about going to the hospital.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's not unfair.
If they had pudding, I would live a lot more, But anyway, that's an inside joke that maybe we'll talk about later. But Medicare Part A covers the hospital room. Now, if a doctor walks in or if they plug something in, and yes, that is a plug-in, or if you have prescriptions in the hospital, that is not covered under Medicare Part A. It is just the hospital room. Now, you could say there are a few other things, but for the sake of the client, I'm just going to make this real simple and say Medicare Part A covers the hospital room. You could get into day 0 through 60. There's no copay. I don't do that. I just simply tell them it has a one-time, or not a one-time, it has a deductible of $1,632. Now, Mr. Client, here's the thing I want you to know. I don't want to scare you, but I do want you to be aware that this $1,632 deductible is not just a one-time thing. If you go to the hospital 10 times, as long as it's not for the same thing within 60 days, you would be charged 10 times. You could pay that $1,632 10 times, which if homeschool math is right, that's $16,320. It's a lot of money, right? So Medicare Part, I want to start putting in the client's mind already, Medicare Part A and Medicare by itself is not a good option.
Sure.
Right? So in the presentation, I'm already trying to get their brain to think about, I've got to have something else. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's Medicare Part A. Now, one thing I didn't mention is Medicare Part A, as long as you have paid in for 10 years, or as long as you've paid in 10 years, then you will not have to pay anything for Medicare Part A.
True.
So it's zero premium. Okay, now, Matt, talk to us about what does Medicare Part B cover?
Sure. So, if Medicare Part A covers hospital, I mean, we obviously have to have, for the doctor to walk in, for something to get plugged in, we have to have coverage for that, right? So that's going to be split up into Medicare Part A, and then we're going to have Medicare Part B.
Yeah, so Medicare Part B, all things medical.
All things medical. So, and again, we could overcomplicate this, but in this scenario, because you are going to run into a lot of clients who are like, when they start looking at turning 65, they're like, oh man, I'm going to get my Medicare. I'm just going to have my A and B. And like, that's going to cover everything. And it is an option.
Right.
Certainly. It's not a good option.
It's not a smart option.
It's not a great option.
Right.
And for what they're going to spend for just A and B alone, they could find something to cover them extremely well for the out-of-pocket cost. But I mean, we'll talk about that later on.
Right.
But once we have our Medicare Part B, unlike Part A, Medicare Part B for most folks does have a premium.
Yep. And we're going to talk later about whether the dollar sign has one line through it or two. Our producer Adam says two.
Yeah, I mean,
we're just different people.
It is, but not that one's right or that you're wrong. But yeah, 174.70 is. Did you see that?
I did.
So 174.70 is the premium that most people will pay. Now, like so many things in life, this is income adjusted. So if you're married, you and your spouse do make more money, that can go up all the way up to several $100s a month, but we'll stick at the basics. I mean,
Right.
we're
going to have a training on that later.
Yes.
About how to also not make it awkward and ask them, how much money do you make?
Sure.
I just met you.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you how much money I make, but we'll show you how to get that later.
So $174.70 is the premium, and we're just going to say everybody's going to pay that for now. Mm-hmm. We've established it's income adjusted, but we're going to say $174.70 is your premium. After you're paying your premium, there's a one-time deductible for the year.
Okay.
Might be hard to read that, but there's a one-time deductible for the year of $240.
$240 once a year.
Once a year, and then once you've paid your deductible, you then transition to an 80-20 split.
Yeah,
right?
20%. That's not bad, right?
Well, it's not. And right, you do hear, like I've sat in front of a lot of clients who have said 80-20, like, man, I have an 80-20 where I'm at. That's my employer coverage. That's pretty standard in the group health insurance world. But when we talk about Medicare, we're talking about, as you've said, it's an uncapped potential.
Right.
And a $100,000 bill in the hospital, for your medical piece of that, if you're responsible for 20%, it's 20 grand. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's an uncapped number. And that's really what we're trying to get across.
Yes.
Without making it too obvious as that's what we're trying to get across.
Yeah. That's all we're trying to get across, that this is an option. But it is an option that leaves you exposed to a significant amount of risk. And that is something that we are trying to help our clients, and you should be trying to help your clients to avoid, is that potential risk. And that's why we'll then look at a couple of options to help mitigate that risk.
And that's where I say, okay, now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is where we come in. This is Medicare, right? I don't sell Medicare. I don't work for Medicare, but I do help you cover the things that Medicare does not cover.
Sure.
Okay. So I tell them there's really three options.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is you could just go with this. You could pay your $174.70 and be done. Like we said already, it's not a real smart option because you really leave your tushy uncovered there with that 20%
yes.
and the 1632. I believe that's the first time I've said tushy on Medicare Sales Playbook.
First time for everything.
Put that down in the record book there, Adam. It may be the last two. I'm feeling a little red in the face right now. However, I got to get back on track. Here we go. Option 2 and option 3, we're going to show those to you. I always want to tell them here, if you would do me a favor, please, because here's what happened. Even my mom the other day was like, Dallas, I talked to my coworker and I talked to my sister and I talked to my aunt and and I'm like, Mom, hold on. Clear everything out of your head because your aunt is very different than you. Your coworkers are very different than you, right? You are going to do something that is unique to you. So clear everything out of your head. Let's just talk about what your options are. I've had people walk into my office and even say, you know what? My neighbor has the Humana Gold Plus HMO.
And
That's what I want. That's what I want. And I'm like, well, I want that right there. And I'll say, okay, do me one favor. Let me have your meds. No, give me the meds. And I'll say, you can have the Humana Gold plan. However, it'll cost you $1,800 more a year in meds alone. And they're like, okay, well, let's talk about the other option, right?
Yeah.
So first off, ask your client, clear your head, clean slate. And if I'm sitting with a couple, I'll say, don't even rely on each other, right? Because you may be one. I promise you, my mom's on one, my dad's on the other. They're different people, okay? They're both short, but they're different people. Now, I'm going to say, option 1, like I said, is Medicare. Option 2 would be a Medicare supplement. I'm going to show you a Plan G. That's what we're going to work with. Really, any more G and N are really the only ones out there. But I'm going to go with the Plan G and show you how it works. So first of all, with the Plan G, you're going to have a premium. Now, this option is the more expensive option. However, it's the more comprehensive. It's going to cover everything just a little bit better. So you're going to have Plan G, which, I'm in Southwest Missouri. Average premium for a male Plan G is probably around $130. So I'll go $130 right there. Okay. Now that's a month. Now you still also have to pay your $174.70 because you see, if you go this route, you're going to carry 3 cards and you have to have those 3 cards on you at all time. Number 1, if you go to the hospital, you're going to slap down that red, white, and blue Medicare card, right? That red, white, and blue Medicare card is your primary. And if you're going to the hospital, it's going to cover all but how much?
1632.
1632. Your Medicare Plan G covers 1632. So if you're on a Plan G, you are going to pay $0 out of pocket for your hospital room. On the Part B side of it, you still have to pay the $240 once a year, just one time. Then Medicare pays how much?
80%.
80%? Any guesses on what your supplement pays?
No clue.
20%, right? So your out of pocket is the $240. Okay, so your second card is going to be that supplement card that you slap down that covers what Medicare doesn't cover. It's a phenomenal plan, right? Now, there is one thing that you have to pay. We said the $240. So I like to do what I call Medicare math. Okay, so let's put this together. And yes, kids, that is called dyslexia. That's why I put the 4 before the 7. You pay $174.70. You pay the $130. So your total monthly is $304.70, right?
Yep.
Now, if I do math in my head, which I typically don't do in public, that's going to be around $3,600, right?
Yeah.
3 times 12 is 36, $3,600. Now you have to pay something once a year. What's that?
Your deductible?
My deductible of $240. So now I know that my out of pocket is right around $3,800. So come what may, I don't care if I have to go to the hospital every day and have every test. If I go in and I tell, like my mom, this will be the plan that she most likely goes on. But my mom could go in and have the blood work, lab work, CAT scan, dog scan, all that stuff, right? All that can be done. She knows that's her out of pocket, no matter what, right? On the other hand, what if she goes to the doctor one time, has the CAT scan, the blood work, all that stuff done, and the doctor says, I don't want to see you till next year. You're good to go. What's her out of pocket? It's $3,800. So there's it's a catch-22.
It is.
But that's a Medicare supplement. Now, we said you'd carry 3 cards. The third one we're not going to really discuss today is going to be the prescription card. Okay? So that one typically will run your drugs. We'll show you exactly what it'll be, and we'll go over that later. But those are the 3 cards that you were carrying. And I know this kind of looks like a jumble, but I promise you, to your client, it makes sense.
Yeah.
They now know I have Medicare Part A, that covers the hospital room. I have a deductible $1,632. I have Medicare Part B, costs me $174.70. I have a deductible one time a year, $240, and then it becomes $820. My supplement covers 20%. My supplement covers the $1,632. My max out of pocket is $3,800. So, Mr. Client, here at the end of the day, you can do what you want to do. No networks. Go anywhere you want. You don't have to do anything. If you want to get a second opinion, whatever, it's $3,800. That is a Medicare supplement.
Absolutely.
And that clears it up for your client. Now, on the other hand, almost a mirror opposite is the Medicare Advantage plan.
Yep.
So, Matt, I'm going to erase this. You tell us about Medicare Advantage plans.
So you're right. So Medicare Advantage plan is very much so the opposite of, I say very much so the opposite. It is closely the opposite of a Medicare supplement. So, where with the Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement, you're paying a monthly premium regardless of how much or how little you use. With a Medicare Advantage plan, so Medicare Advantage plans, let's kind of lay the groundwork there. It's called a Part C. Right. Now, as hokey as this might sound, I've never liked using it, but it's true. We use Part C for combines.
Yep.
Because Medicare Advantage plans, Part C plans combine all of the original parts of Medicare. So your Parts A and B coverage, most of them will say MAPDs. Most of them are going to cover prescription drug coverage. There are MA only plans, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll just talk Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans, so MAPDs. And then along with Medicare Advantage plans, one of the really cool things about MA plans are that, when we talk about a Medicare supplement, regardless of how much you use it, your cost doesn't go up. Right? But there are gaps in a Medicare supplement plan that you would have to seek external care for or external policies for. So a prescription drug plan for one. Or, what about dental coverage?
Yeah, we never mentioned dental.
Or what if you want to go to the gym or
vision,
or hear. I mean,
Yeah.
well, there's a lot of there are gaps there. So as great and comprehensive as a Medicare supplement is, it does leave some gaps in some places that might be important to some people. So a Medicare Advantage plan, so for starters, just like a Med Supp, you have to have both Medicare Parts A and B to enroll in them.
So I got to pay that $174.70.
Still got to pay that $174.70, but more oftentimes than not, your premium for a Medicare Advantage plan put 2 lines there.
Attaboy. We've won him over, Adam.
That's the only time I'm doing it. Most Medicare Advantage plans have a $0 premium. And you're going to put that in front of a lot of clients because you're going to sit down and say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, now that we've talked about Medicare, now that we've explained what does original Medicare cover, what are the gaps and maybe the risk that is associated with it, here's your 2 options. You have a Med Supp and you explain that, hey, you could be out $3,800 potentially is what you show them a $0 premium. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is obvious.
Okay, let me give you the objection I get all the time.
Okay.
It's too good to be true. If it's $0 premium, it's too good to be true.
Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch, though.
Right.
And this is by no means a free lunch. What a Medicare Advantage plan gives somebody the opportunity to do is really pay for the coverage that they're utilizing rather than pay for the plethora of things that might come.
Right.
Right? So you'll pay a $0 premium, which means that if you don't go to the doctor at all, you just don't pay anything.
Yeah. I am going to put this.
Yes, yeah. When we say don't pay anything, all of these are under the understanding that you'll still pay your Medicare Part B premium.
Right.
Because if you don't pay it and you don't have Medicare Part B, you can't have either one of these.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're still going to pay this. But outside of your Part B premium, you'll pay most of them a $0 premium. And whenever you utilize coverage, you'll pay for it. So you go to a doctor, you might pay $0 for your primary care doctor, you might pay $10, you might pay $30, $40, $50 for a specialist, but the trade-off to the $0 premium is that there are expenses and copays throughout the plan. When you go to the hospital, there's a per night copay. It's kind of high for 3, 4, 5 days, however many you're in there. But the great thing about a Medicare Advantage plan is that while you're paying this list of copays, it's going to be capped at a maximum out of pocket.
The old MOOP.
The old MOOP.
Yeah. And while you're doing that, if I have somebody just camp on that, it's too good to be true, it's too good. My neighbor says this, my neighbor says that. I actually tell them the $0 is your premium. So a lot of people don't know when you go on a Medicare Advantage plan, the government actually pays $1,200 to $1,500 a month to that carrier for them to take you.
Yes.
So the premium is being paid. It's the government's way of really diversifying the risk.
Sure.
Throwing some people over there so then they're not on the hook for the 80% that they were with a supplement.
Absolutely. And with that comes a list of responsibilities and requirements that are for a conversation entirely out of today.
Different. I was going to say a whole different episode. That's a whole different podcast.
That is an entire different podcast, and we are not getting into that.
No,
that was a past life. So, again, like Dallas said, this is your premium.
Right.
And everything that happens that is hospital medically related will go towards, now this $3,000, this is just a number in the sky, right?
We're making
it can be anywhere. I mean, it can be anywhere from, we see them all the way from the $1,000 range. They can go all the way up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. Anyway, depending on where you live is how high that'll be.
Yeah,
but
Dade County, Florida, it's like $9. New York, it's like $75,000.
Something like that.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Everything you do goes towards that. And should at some point in time you hit this number, then congratulations. You don't have to pay anything else.
Go skydiving.
I wouldn't, but maybe.
Yeah.
Skydiving is not covered by a Medicare Advantage plan, though.
What?
If you hit the ground, it might be. So this is the
trade-off.
trade-off.
About life insurance. That's how we cross-sell into life insurance, which again is another podcast.
So, the real difference between obviously a Medicare supplement and a Medicare Advantage plan, and there's no perfect option for everybody. They might be a great option. One person might be a great fit for both of them. Just which one do they just like the sound of more? The difference is with a Medicare Advantage plan, you pay for what you use.
Right.
Downside to that is that you might use a lot.
Yeah.
And you might pay a lot. Positive. You might be very healthy and you might not go to the doctor at all. And you just saved yourself a ton of money.
Yeah. And a couple things. One, I look at it like this. Medicare Advantage is for the person that says, you know what, I'll risk it. And if I have to, I'll pay something later. That's the person that says, you know what, I'm comfortable. I know that I could have to pay my MOOP.
Yeah.
The Medicare Supplement is for the person that says, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to pay up front and then come what may.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, the big thing with the Medicare Advantage plan is the network. You want to make sure, guys, don't be a person that doesn't look up doctors and hospitals and stuff.
Please look them up.
Look them up. Make sure they're in the right plan and stuff like that. This hit me here a while back. I had somebody saying, oh, I have to be in a network. I have to be in a network. I have to, my neighbor said, your network and all this. And I asked him, what do you have right now? I have a group plan. Who's your network? It's Mercy. I'm like, you have a network.
Yeah, you're already in a network.
It's the same thing, right? Same exact thing, right? And I have to be really careful not to push one way or the other because I get excited about both of them.
Absolutely.
When I'm presenting. But I kind of look at it like this. I break it down. What I do at the end is then I take this and I really kind of, let's compare, right? So I go, number one on a Medicare Sub or a Medicare Advantage plan, you know your cost. Like for example, the example we use is $3,800.
Yeah.
The second thing is no network. Right? There's no network. You can go anywhere you want. Okay.
With MedSup.
With a MedSup, yeah. There's your cost ahead of time. You're paying $3,800 a year. There's no network. You're good to go wherever you want. Second opinion. Now, some of the negatives. You may have to pay a little extra if you want dental, vision, hearing, gym membership, out of pocket, all that stuff.
Yep.
Right. So there is that negative as well. Then I'll go over here and say, okay, with a Medicare Advantage plan, the positives are zero premium. Right. You don't have to pay anything up front. You still have to pay the $174.70. So we got that. You also get extras. Right, like gym membership, dental, vision, hearing, all that. The negatives are you understand that says network. It's network, but that's all right. Network. And, of course, another negative might kind of be that you could have to pay. Right. The MOOP is a positive and a negative because it's your safety net.
Absolutely.
But it's also, you may have to pay that out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then just sit back and let them decide.
We're educators. We're not selling. We're selling a concept, but we're not selling a policy. We're not selling a product. We educate, put this in front of them. And the answer as you're going through this is going to be, for most of the time, will be explicitly clear to the person which direction they feel the most confident and comfortable in. Yeah.
And a lot of times, guys, your first appointment with somebody should be over an hour. If it's not, you're not doing right by the client, in my opinion, because you need to run the doctors, you need to run the prescriptions, you need to do all that stuff. You need to listen. And like I said, be very careful. Now, I have had people ask me, which way would you go? And I usually tell them, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I'm different than you. You've got different concerns.
Sure.
However, if they're having trouble deciding, that's when I start not telling them, but asking them. Let me ask you something. What do you like about MedSups? Yeah. Well, I like that it covers, no network. Not like, well, what do you like about the Advantage? Well, I like the cost, right? So then let's talk about it. And then I comfort them with, hey, you have a year. You can transition during that first year. If you take a MedSup and you don't like it, you can go over the Advantage plan. Okay, and if you don't like the supplement, if you go to the Advantage plan and you don't like it, you can go to the supplement in that first year. If you don't like the supplement, in October we can put you on an Advantage plan, right? So there's a lot of different things. You can give them some peace. I always tell people, hey, you got to make a decision now, but then you got to make a big decision 1 year from now, because you got that first year Part A effective.
And they're going to know. I mean, they're going to know in that first year.
Yeah.
If it's working well for them or not. And so after they make that first decision, it's pretty much a consistent decision following that. So
absolutely.
I mean, this is not, I think one of the things to keep in mind and that I try to remind every agent that I come across is that this seems like a lot, but this is not rocket science. Mm-mm. It is very simple. It's a game of numbers. It's a game of listening is really what it is. It is a game of
100%.
listening. It is a game of taking your time. It's a game of patience. It's a game of knowing the right questions to ask, because there's a lot of discovery that you need to do, because your client might not just up and tell you. You have to know how to extract that information at times.
And I think to you and I, this is simple.
Very simple.
I could describe this all day. It's no big deal. And what I like to tell my clients a lot of times is there's no wrong answer here.
No.
They're both amazing plans. I would take either one of them tomorrow.
100%.
Right? So you can't make a wrong decision. But I think a lot of times we're like, okay, let's get through this, hurry up. And I think next to them spending their 401k and making sure they have enough money to last the rest of their life, this is the second most stressful thing they go through.
I agree.
Because health to a senior is everything. And if I do something wrong, I'm going to get screwed up.
Sure.
Right? So take your time. Like you said, be patient, listen, and make sure you're doing the right thing for them.
How important is it, though, to, whenever you're sitting down with your client, obviously we start at the beginning, because it's really hard to expound upon what Med Supps and what Med Advantage plans are without explaining to them first what gaps and what risk lies with Medicare. How important is it, though, that you don't walk into a home with one option?
Oh, my goodness. I said recently on a podcast that we were recording, and I'm going to try to decide whether to edit it or not, I don't think they should allow captive Medicare agents.
I don't disagree.
I don't understand how you can ethically serve the client. And nothing against anybody. I know we're probably got some
I was captive.
I was captive for 14 years. You don't know what you don't know. And I'm not sitting here saying those people are unethical or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't know how you can walk in with one option and do what's best for your client. It may fit 3 out of 10.
That's not even one option. When we talk about captivity, we're talking about one option within one option.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, it's important to make sure that you have all the carriers, everything like that. It's educated. You know, the number one reason people don't get into Medicare is it's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, but it's a lot of opportunity too.
There's a ton of opportunity.
Yeah.
Speaking of a lot of carriers, you know, and these are things that we could really go down the rabbit hole on. And you're right. To us, a lot of this is very simple. One of the most difficult things from my perspective about Medicare is learning the plans, learning which plan does which. I still get them. I mean, I still get them confused. I get an agent call me and is like, hey, which plan? I'm like, honestly, I have to go look it up. I don't know. About
the time I learn them,
they change.
AEP comes and it's all changed. Yeah.
I would encourage you, if you're new to Medicare, here's something that can happen that I would encourage you to consider, is that you don't need 600 carriers.
Yeah.
You don't need 1,000 options. You really just need a handful of really good products that you can put down in front of you, because the more confused you are, the more confused your client's going to be.
100%.
So if you can simply walk in front of them and hand them, hey, you know, here's a really great Med Supp option, and maybe here's like 2 MA options.
Yeah.
You don't need to offer them 30 or 40 different plans, because, I mean, it's paralysis by analysis.
And we sound like we're contradicting ourselves just a little bit. We're not. What Matt's saying is, go look at your market.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you're in your area, start looking around talk to your doctors, talk to pharmacists.
Absolutely.
Who do you guys prefer? Who do you guys like? Get the top 4 or 5. Now, if you're out there and you're like, man, this XYZ company keeps coming up and I ought to learn about them, go get them. But a lot of agents will do is they'll go get, 52 different MAPD plans.
Sure.
And try to learn them all. And next thing you know, AEP's over. Right? And they haven't sat down with anybody yet. So yeah, don't go out there and just kill yourself with information.
Important to have both things, but not to weigh yourself down with so much of each of them.
Perfect. I love it, man. Guys, I hope that's helped. I really do. I hope that we have helped you understand how to present. And a lot of agents sitting here going, well, duh, I know what Medicare is. I know what Medicare A, B, and all that. But I want to make sure people know how to explain it to your client, how to walk through just with a yellow pad and a pen saying, this is what this is. And what we did, we developed now some forms that we have. We're going to start making those available to you guys, but we have some forms that we use in order to to help you explain to your clients. But I hope that helped. Guys, keep watching, keep subscribing, keep liking. Please share. That we would greatly appreciate that. But the big thing is, let us know what you want to be trained on. What is it that you want to know more about? And we'll have some experts on, and we'll tell you everything we know. It won't take long.
No.
But we'll take it. Matt, thank you very much for being on, man.
Pleasure.
Great job.
Pleasure.
And guys, thank you for watching the Medicare Sales Playbook. We appreciate you guys. We will see you next week.